Hey, Blockhead traders. Here at Blockhead Traders, I must inform you that we are not financial professionals. Nothing we say should be considered financial advice. We offer our own thoughts and opinions to you, the viewer. We expect you to take these opinions and form your own financial opinions and make your own financial decisions. Today is Wednesday, April 6, 2022, and this is Blockhead Traders Weekly. In this week's episode, I'm going to be joined by fellow Blockhead trader ViperXL007, and we are going to take a deep dive into the crypto game called Chikn. But before we hop to this week's content, I want to give a shout out to our Discord, link in the description below. You can hop in there. It's a free to join. You can talk to myself, Viper, a few of the other Blockhead traders. We'd love to hear, what are you trading? What do you want to hear about? What do you want to know? Drop in, say hello. You will also find a link to thetagang.com/sprocket888, where I post each and every one of my trades, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's hop to this week's content of the Game of Chikn. So, Viper, this is a game that you originally kind of found, discovered. Maybe you can touch on how you discovered it here, but I'm going to take you guys through just a real brief kind of tour of this Game of Chikn. And the Game of Chikn is kind of a passive game that you kind of check in through a website. And it's Chikn, Chikn.farm. And what you have here is it started out as smaller. It has a roadmap and it's growing. But if essentially at the chicken farm, you have a couple of different aspects of two key ones that are out there right now. You have a chicken roost and farmland. And the chicken roost is really where you keep all of your chickens. And your chickens lay egg, and the game operates on this tri-tokenomics principle, where they have this almost life cycle relationship around a few different tokens. And in the first aspect of it, it is the relationship of chicken, which is an NFT, egg, which is a token, feed, which is another token. And what essentially happens is your chicken, which you purchase for at a marketplace. And so in this website, you can come to the chicken market, and you can browse all of the chickens that are for sale. And each of the chickens have different rarities, from common all the way to unique. And those rare traits cause different prices to be available for the chicken. All chicken functionally behaves the same way. So a common chicken will functionally operate in the ecosystem the same way as an elite or a legendary chicken. It just, those higher or more rare traits just are, in the actual NFT, there are less of them, or particular characteristics that they have are very exclusive to those. And so you can come in here and you can browse just like you browse a eBay or any other marketplace online, and you can choose to go for one of these chickens and you can buy them, and that will enter a transaction on the blockchain, and you will then own that chicken. And when you have a chicken, every chicken lays egg. And depending on how heavy your bird is, will change how much egg that chicken lays. And when you have egg, the egg will generate feed every day. And so depending on how many egg you have, you'll get certain feed. You can then take that feed and you can feed it back to your chicken. And when the chicken eats it, the chicken gets heavier. And the heavier the chicken, the more egg they lay. And so you can see it's this kind of iterative feedback loop that goes through. And so here's kind of a graphical representation of it. You have your chicken lays egg, your egg generates feed, you feed that feed to your chicken gets bigger, giving you more egg, and thus circulating this life cycle. So back to the chicken farm, the roost is where you keep your egg. And one of the other aspects that the game introduced not that long ago was this concept of farmland. And so farmland is really just a way of It's another type of NFT that you can purchase. So the first one, a chicken, was an NFT. Farmland itself is an NFT. And the farmland brings another dimension into the game because on the farmland, you can grow feed. And the way that you grow feed is you essentially stake chicken egg in your farmland. And then as you stake the chicken egg in your farm, you basically get a multiplier to that egg that you have staked in your farmland, which will generate feed. And one aspect that is yet to be released but is upcoming, it's kind of a new try token a little bit, where there's going to be fertilizer introduced. And that fertilizer, and these details, some of these details are a little bit not greatly known because the feature is not out yet, but they're introducing a new aspect of rooster to the ecosystem, and the rooster is going to generate going to generate fertilizer, and you can take that fertilizer and you can put it on your farmland. And the more you fertilize your farmland, the more the multiplier in feed generation from the egg staking that you have goes there. And so you generate more feed based on how fertile your farmland is. And just like the chicken NFT, you can go to the market and you can enter and look at various farmlands of different sizes, different capacities, different unique traits, just like looking for there. And you can go and you can purchase them. So Viper, I know that there's a lot to this game. And I'll kind of turn it over to you.
Yeah. So, kind of like, so starting at the beginning. So like you said, I got into this fairly early on, but not super early. So the game launched, the Chicken NFT collection launched in late November, somewhere around Thanksgiving time, I believe it was. I actually I bought my first chicken late December. I think it was just before Christmas or just after, I can't remember, somewhere around there. But the reason I got into it was, so the very first game, and this is a very common story, I think, to a lot of people that are in crypto gaming right now. The very first game I tried that kind of opened my eyes to crypto gaming was Axie Infinity, which is still a game that's doing very well. But it operates on the Ethereum network, and it was really not just a little bit clunky, but also really expensive to get into. And I don't mean just purchasing the NFTs to play that game, but the gas fees, like we've talked about before. Just getting in and out, I ended up spending around $150 in gas fees just to do everything. And so, but nonetheless, regardless, that was my first experience, and I was like, this is awesome in theory. And so then I, took a break, didn't pursue any other games, just got to know crypto more, did a lot of, following of different concepts, mechanics, tokens, and in different discords that I was in, because that's the other awesome thing about crypto is you get in, like, it's very community of, if you're interested in this game, go find their Discord server, get involved there, just lurk, read the comments, have conversations, whatever. And this game called Chikn kept coming up in these different Discord servers across different projects that I was in. And so I was like, all right, what the heck is going on with this? Like, why does this keep coming up? So I went and looked, learned the basic tri-tokenomics, like you said, feed, egg, chicken. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then I looked at the roadmap, and on the roadmap of the, like you mentioned, roosters, which are minting soon, but it's still about 2 weeks out before we get to actually having roosters. But roosters are a gateway to fighting. And so there's going to be PvP cockfighting. And that was, just, I looked at the roadmap of this whole project, and Axie Infinity is somewhat of an RPG style, fighting game, turn-based. And so that was what then started to click with me of like PvP aspect. So I was like, maybe this could be like a big Axie Infinity type game. They're very different, but still, that's my mentality, what I was at. And so I was like, maybe I should get involved. And so I checked the marketplace. And at the time, the floor price for a nice rarity chicken was 4.95 AVAX. You just saw there that it's up to like 27 now. So I was like, well, this is, at the time, this was about as expensive as it was to get into Axie Infinity. I had just gotten out of Axie Infinity, rolled those funds forward. So like we've talked about on previous episodes, that was great. I was able to pull out of Axie Infinity and then roll that money forward into this investment into Chikn. And then I started playing from there. And so kind of what I wanted to do was, if we hop over here, I was just going to walk through what does it mean? What does it mean to play this game? So I have a number of things lined up that I need to do. And that's not a coincidence. That was by design here. So I currently have 2 chickens. Like you said, I'm on like I don't know, these chickens are maybe my 6th or 7th total. I've never had any more than 2 at a time. I have some things I need to do here. So I'm sitting in my roost. I have these 2 chickens here. One of them is a bit thinner than the other one. One is at 21 kilograms. One is at 14. And to level up, this timer down here is green. So that means if I have the feed available, I can level up. So I need 4,900 feed to level up. What I did do before this video was I went over to my farmland and I harvested it. I had about 4,100 feed available to claim. So I went ahead and harvested that. And sure enough, I am just short of, I have 4,109 feed and I need 4,900 feed to level this bird up. I also have 9.83 eggs in my hand. And there's this nifty little swap feature where 1 egg can get me 450 feed. So I'm going to say, all right, you know what? The YouTubes want me to level this bird up. So let me just go ahead and swap 2 of these for 900 feed. I have now submitted that to the blockchain to go ahead and swap 2 of these eggs for 900 feed. Transaction has gone through. And in just a moment, this interface will update. So while we're waiting for that to update, the other thing that I'm here to do is, like we just talked about over here on the farmlands, you stake LP tokens, which are liquidity pool tokens, to earn feed. So currently I have 38.841 tokens, and that's currently giving me 1,200 feed per day. So the other thing that I want to do is my eggs have been doing their thing, and we're pumping out 10.25 egg per day. So I currently have 30 eggs yet to claim. So I'm going to go ahead and claim these, which is now taking them out of the roost and putting them into my pocket to go do whatever I want with them. So we're going to do that. We have our feed showed up here. So now I officially have enough to level up this bird. So we're going to feed it. We're going to feed it 4,900 feed, just as the doctor recommended. So we'll feed that bird and get that going. So my eggs have been claimed. We pulled those into my basket. I now have 37.9 eggs in here. And so I now need to convert that into one of these liquidity pool coins, tokens. So the way we do that is we actually go over here to this pool that's on Trader Joe is the name of the DEX. And we actually have to split 18 eggs because you need equal parts egg and AVAX. Okay, so half of those eggs have been sold for AVAX. So we come back over here to the pool and we say we want to pair now because we're going to create these liquidity pool tokens. We want to pair our egg, our remaining balance of 19.95 eggs to the equivalent value of AVAX. We're going to supply that. And these are, so this part, what liquidity pool providing is, that's stuff that we have kind of discussed in previous episodes, but can certainly go in more in depth as to what exactly does this mean? Because nothing about this exact step is very intuitive. So that went through, and now I have 2.42682 of these tokens. All right, so back to the farmland. All right, so back at the farmland, we can see my tokens have shown up here. We're going to go ahead and toss them into the farmland. And we'll see that, I mean, this isn't a significant portion, 2.42 tokens. But what we're doing, the purpose of what we're doing here is to increase our feed production per day. And around 30 eggs is decent enough of an improvement.
Yeah, I usually go through these steps about maybe once a week, maybe every 5 days. Between every 5 and 7 days, I go through these steps too.
So we go ahead, we approved that amount of JLP. Now we're depositing it. And the reason you kind of want to limit the steps, like Sprocket just said, about once a week, is, I mean, there's gas fees associated with this. And so if you're doing this for a bump of like 10 feed per day, that's not really going to be in your best interest, because you're just going to end up spending more money in gas fees than what you're actually getting out of it. So that just went through. So we were at 1277. And once everything updates here, we will see that we are now at 1357. So almost 1277, 1357, 80 feed, almost 100 feed bump per day. Not bad. And now I have the equivalent of about 339 eggs staked in here. So that housekeeping is done. We go back over to the roost, and we're ready to level up. I gave the bird that 4,900 feed. We're going to go ahead and level her up.
And notice here, after this gets leveled up, the amount of feed that it takes to get to the next level actually grows exponentially. So the bigger the bird gets, the more and more feed to get to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. And so you can see my 21 kilogram bird up here, to go to level 22, I need 11,025 feed. Obviously, by comparison, what we just saw was 4,900 feed to take us to 15, and now 5,625 to take us to level 16. And we have this cooldown timer, which also increases at a more linear rate. But even if I had this 5,625 feed available, I cannot feed this bird. I cannot level up the bird. I can feed it as I want, as I please, but I can't level it up for another 15 hours. And then that's, a mechanic put into the game for gamification and to keep people that are able to plow through levels to just plow through levels. And it's kind of a normalization factor to keep things equitable for all the players. So I think that is all my work on the farm. We added to the farmland, fed the bird, things are good.
So I do want to kind of call out, because some of these things are actually kind of a little nuanced a little bit. And, I mentioned the exponential increase of feed. Well, the amount that Viper's bird is now going to lay egg more is linear. So basically every kilogram that his bird gets increased is 0.25 egg per day production. And so what you find is they've crafted in this tokenomics here that you have a linear progression of egg production, but an exponential consumption of feed. And so eventually you're going to reach a point where you're going to have diminishing returns, where it's going to cost you so much feed just to get one more level. And that one more level is only going to net you about 0.25 egg per day. And so, you can go on the marketplace and you can find some pretty big birds. But there's a point in which it's maybe cost prohibitive or not as much value in putting in that much feed for there. And that really just kind of drives different strategies and different things that people like to do from that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also important to note, because this is and when I was on my feeding program kick, a huge part of that was watching the price of feed and egg respectively and tracking what is it going to cost to do what I'm doing. So if we take a quick look here, like this is the price of feed currently. So one feed is, and this is in US dollars. So one feed equals 0.003202 cents. And by contrast, one egg equals $1.55. And so I'll let the implicit math be done by you on that, but those are important, very important things to keep track of. And what is also interesting in all of this is a lot of these things are in place for control of supply, because inflation is a very real thing, even in a game, even in crypto or whatever. Inflation is very real, and controlling supply is very critical. And so that's why what you saw me do with swapping, so I took those 2 eggs and I swapped them for feed. When I did that, those 2 eggs were burnt out of existence. They were taken out of supply, gone completely. So that's one mechanism that they use to kind of try to control egg supply a little bit, because egg is inflationary. There is no limit to the amount of egg. And when you feed your chicken, that feed is burnt and removed from supply forever. And feed is deflationary, meaning that there is a max supply of feed that will ever be created. We're not there yet. I think we're probably, I think the latest estimates I've seen, we're probably 11 to 12 months away from reaching max feed. But that, again, to Sprocket's point, plays into the different gamifications, the different ways you can manage your strategies for this game. Is maybe you want to play up the egg aspect and collect a bunch of eggs, or maybe you want to play up the feed aspect, or maybe you want to do the whole thing, everything I just did. So there's so many strategies you can take to playing this game. And I think that's really interesting. And I think we kind of have different strategies. So what is your strategy here as you approach this game?
Yeah, so I look at it, and I think supply and demand, gamification of this whole thing, and the thing that jumped out to me is, well, the design of this game has a limited supply of feed. At some day, the feed will run out, and there will be no more feed. But the feed facilitates the creation of the main, call it currency of the game so far, and that's egg. Egg is used to do a lot of different things, and in the roadmap, egg is going to be used for a lot of the transactions, the currency. It's the main token of the entire ecosystem, and the way you get more egg is you have your chicken lay it every day, and the bigger the chicken, the more egg that you lay. And to get your chicken bigger, you're going to want to give it more feed. And so the aspect that jumped right out of me is, well, feed is the finite resource. Feed facilitates more rapid production of the currency in the game. Therefore, my theory is a lot of people are going to want to get their hands on the feed so they can give it to their chicken to immediately jump into that currency of egg generation. So the aspect of this game that I saw that I wanted to start doing is call it feed hoarding. So I jumped into the game back in probably January, and I didn't have a chicken, but I could buy egg on the open market, and I could take that egg and stake the egg to generate feed. And so I have been on a strategy of trying to basically become a giant feed hoarder. I have about 50,000 feed currently in my possession, and I'm just kind of hanging on and accumulating this feed because someday that feed will run out. And if you actually, Viper, can you pull back up the chart of the feed?
Yeah.
Because this is an interesting thing. So you might say, oh, well, feed, it's just been going down. Well, it's been going down because there's lots of it to go around.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at some of this initial price action on the feed when the game first started, remember, feed didn't exist when they started the game. feed basically started coming into play as people put eggs out there and they started to emit feed. So in the very early stages of this game, everybody had scrawny chickens. Everybody wanted to level them up very quickly, and everybody wanted to get their hands on feed, but there wasn't a lot of feed that had been emitted into the ecosystem. And you can see that in the price action, where the price of feed was pretty volatile and going up relatively high to where it is now. And so my theory and my strategy is that phenomenon will return once the feed starts diminishing and there's not as much of it out there in the world. Now, if everybody's hoarding feed like me, my theory is not going to pan out as well as I think. But I'm playing the aspect of a lot of people's instant gratification. I want to get my chicken bigger. I want the egg. I want to play the game. And so I'm banking on that. And that's my strategy right now, Viper.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a sound strategy. It's the long game, but in these times of, where price action's all over the place, like the long game is perfectly viable. And yeah, I think that's an important thing to call out as far as the early price action. It came out and it had a very limited amount of liquidity that it came out with, and that was all there was on the market. So you had this early dump of just profiteers taking profits. It's worth it. I mean, it was ridiculous, up to almost 50 cents. So do the math on your 50,000 feed right there. and so people are going to sell. Market action does what it does. And then somewhere around here, people are like, wait, I need this. Like, now the game is now just starting to kick in. People are starting to grasp the concept of these chickens that are emitting this egg. They want the feed and they want it faster than they're able to get. Like you mentioned, initially, before there were farmlands, the only way to get it was stake your eggs here to earn daily feed. So people wanted the feed. They wanted it faster than they could earn it, so they would just went out and bought it. And so then price surged again. But again, people were buying it at a rate that was not, I don't want to say not sustainable, because it's just market, supply and demand, but it was a limited amount. It was a limited supply. So price spiked, and now we started this long tail, because this is just stabilization to me. There's a ton of supply yet to be produced. We're producing it. The game is stabilizing. People are settling into the routine of what to do here. And just like you said, we'll stabilize on a price, which we've actually stabilized fairly well here. It could go lower, but the way this token is used, you would expect some stability for a while. And key to all of this is utility of that egg, just like you said. And that's very important when getting into any game, is to look at the entire roadmap and plan of the project. Egg is going to be insanely utilized going forward. We mentioned the roosters. Roosters will not eat feed to get bigger, but roosters will still get bigger, and that will make them, for the PvP fighting and things like that, roosters will get bigger by eating egg. So now all of a sudden we've put utility demands on egg, and now tie everything back that to get more eggs, you need feed. And I'm not saying roosters are going to be the catalyst to drive feed up, but it's that kind of utility on that egg token that when feed runs out, creates a huge opportunity to make a play on as far as hoarding it. And then down the line, there's even more use cases for egg. Because it's so inflationary, the team is putting a ton of focus on utilizing that token, maybe even overutilizing it to make it momentarily deflationary. But point is, pressure will be on that egg. And I think hoarding feed is going to be an interesting strategy, and quite potentially very, very lucrative, but we'll see.
Yeah, it always makes me think of a movie in the mid '90s. Was it Kevin Costner in Waterworld, where the dry dirt became like a token of the currency because the whole Earth had gotten flooded. So look me up sometime when feed is scarce in the world, because I should have barrels and barrels and barrels of it.
Yeah, well, we'll do a whole episode on just feed distribution. So, but in a very long nutshell, that's the game of Chikn. And key, like I said, key to all of this is a project to have a solid roadmap. Clearly, they do, and they keep delivering, which is very important. I mean, these are investments just as much as they are fun games to play. So you really got to keep a close eye on what's happening with the project. And this is one project that is really establishing itself, as this blue chip player in the Avalanche ecosystem, which is it's fun to be a part of in any capacity. And there's plenty of strategies to get involved. So that's how we're here.
Yeah. So, Viper, what's your strategy? Are you just raising chickens and selling them? Is that I didn't quite get to what your long game. What's your end game here?
I call it my not breeding. It's my feeding program. Because one thing that I noticed, and again, there's just so many strategies and ways to play this game. But one thing I noticed on the market is, and I haven't looked lately, so I don't know if it's exactly the case now, but people don't really price in the size of the chicken with the price that they list it at. So what I mean by that is, and I haven't done the numbers, so I'm just making these numbers up currently, but let's say that this 6 kilogram chicken here is currently selling for 24 AVAX, 24.3 AVAX. Let's say that this guy here with this 12 is really killing my example. Let's pretend like that 12 isn't there. So I don't know, just running with it. Just humor me for a second. Let's say that then the next cheapest chicken, let's say this 10 kilogram, and say he was listed at 26 AVAX or something like that. And so then I would run the numbers and be like, well, how much would it cost me to buy this chicken at 6, feed it up to 10, and then be able to list it for say 26 and, make a solid 1 AVAX profit. And I would run those numbers, and it would be like 0.2 AVAX is what it would cost to feed that chicken up to level 10, and then I could sell it back. And so that was the basis of what my feeding program was, is I would go in here, I would buy the floor chicken, I would feed it, I would fill it up and get it nice and fat. And then the floor price of the NFTs goes, just like a token. But I would wait for things to heat up. I would also try to time my entry. So I would watch the market pretty closely, and I would get a feel for what a dip looked like on the floor price. And so I'd buy at that. So it wasn't 100% just being a fatter chicken. It was also waiting for the market to rise the value of the floor. So anyways, that's how I went through a number of chickens and made a decent amount of profit just doing that. So currently, though, I think my feeder program, I think, is retired because now, so to mint roosters, you need eggs. And so until rooster mint, which we're going to get to towards the end of this series, right now I'm just in mass egg accumulation mode. So that is currently why I have 2 chickens here. And I'm doing everything I can to be an egg maxi right now. So I am Sprocket's best case scenario. I need feed. I need so much feed. So I'm leaning into playing the game of get egg, as much egg as possible. Right now I'm doing it for the rooster mints because I want to mint a handful of roosters. And then from there, I need to recuperate on my feed. So from there, when roosters come out, we'll finally have fertilizer. So over here on my farmland, this 4x multiplier, when we can actually start fertilizing these fields, I need to focus on fertilizer and doing, feeding my roosters, get that fertilizer, recuperate my feed production. And I might go into a momentary phase of feed hoarding, because that feels like a good little breath recuperation from this. So I guess that's to say my strategy is very nondescript. It's very fluid depending on the state of the game.
Yeah, and you touched on it early on here. I do think one of the really kind of cool aspects of this, which to me kind of harkened back to some of the days of that MMO world, some of the early MMOs and the bulletin board games that I used to play, is that addition of the Discord, and that's not really part of the game, but it's the community that plays the game. And I've been pretty entertained and enjoy kind of hopping into the Discord and hearing, firsthand from the developers different comments on things, and you can see the community's outrage when something goes terribly wrong. I know when they went to mint farmland, I actually lost a bunch of feed because it wasn't really clear that you needed to claim all of your feed when they go to mint the farmland. And so they kind of blurted it out in their Discord with 30 minutes to go to the mint, but a lot of people didn't have time to go claim their feed. And so they lost a lot of feed. And I was one of the people that lost it. And a lot of the community was like, oh man, that's terrible. This is, they kind of complained. And the developers did right by the community. And they said, look, we know exactly who lost what feed. We know exactly how much feed they lost because all this stuff is logged on the blockchain. And so they kind of airdropped the feed to all the people that lost it a few weeks later.
Mhm.
And just being connected to that community and kind of chatting in there, and that social aspect that kind of comes with it's almost like the chat rooms of those MMOs and things like that is a really cool kind of addition. It doesn't bring you any dollar value, but it does bring enjoyment value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when I'm in a handful of projects, I mean, it really, it's shaped that, my ever evolving envisionment of the metaverse, quote unquote. And Discord is, my view of Discord has completely changed because when I'm in a handful of projects, I hop from project to project, and like it feels like I'm walking around town and I'm in this tavern and I'm chatting it up with this crowd, which is very focused on this game, and then I go out and I hop into this one and now we're talking a completely different game. But there is a very cool, like you said, kind of throwback feel to the early days of the internet, in chat rooms in these communities. But they're really important to be in, even if you're not chatting, even if you just watch the announcements channel, because it is the primary method of communication from these teams. I mean, they post a lot on Twitter, but that interactivity, I mean, there's some projects that I don't interact at all with the community. I just watch announcements, and then every now and then I search the chat room for the dev's username just to see what are they talking about, because, they're in conversation, and sometimes they'll drop some upcoming alpha about something about the game. So it's all part of the experience, I guess. It's interesting to say the least.
So that is the game of Chikn thus far. Like I said, it's an ever evolving game. Viper and I's strategy sometimes change. Mine's been relatively consistent. Viper, if you heard him explain his strategies, been trying a little bit of everything. The game is changing here in mid-April with Rooster Mint. And so we'll keep you posted on that, but we really wanted to kind of just talk you through one of the games that Viper and I are actually participating in today, and just kind of explain some of the tokenomics, what we do. The demo Viper gave about, hey, this is his routine of kind of harvesting his eggs, gathering his feed, leveling up his chicken, staking his tokens, and just going through all of that. It's a real interesting way of looking at the cryptocurrencies and the blockchain, and I highly encourage you guys to check it out. Maybe the game's for you. Like I said, you really don't need a chicken to participate in the game. I started by just buying egg and started my feed hoarding by simply staking egg. You can enter pretty much anywhere. You could just buy farmland. You could buy a chicken. You could just buy egg. You can just join the Discord and hang out and listen to people and see where you at. I know for me personally, it was a while before I kind of was confident enough to at least try it out, because it was very foreign to me, very new to me. And so I just kind of had these visions of just everything disappearing overnight, and all of my value kind of going up, poof, gone. Not to say that can't happen. It very well could happen to anything, but I was kind of hanging back and letting Viper kind of be on the bleeding edge there for a while. I mean, he mentioned he was getting into it around Thanksgiving and December, and I kind of was like, yeah, okay, we'll see how this works out. Okay. And the difference of the floor prices of the chicken are very clear to the adoptions. I think Viper got some of his first chickens for probably less than 5 AVAX. And I know my first chicken, when I finally ended up one, was like 20 AVAX. There was one that kind of popped up one day, and I said, that's about a decent floor place to get in at. And so, that's early adopter. Yeah, Viper could have lost everything, could have gone poof. There's other games that maybe we'll touch on that kind of just evaporated overnight, essentially, or a fast, fiery death. So that's the Game of Chikn. We're going to take another look at a few other games here, upcoming episodes, and we'll keep you posted on Chikn as Rooster comes around. And Viper and I believe, are both out there strategizing to mint a couple of Rooster at least for each of us. So that is the Game of Chikn. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Good luck out there trading. If you go out to buy some egg, have fun with that. Say hello to our chickens. Come hop in our Discord. Let us know what your chicken numbers are should you choose to buy some chickens. And have fun. And remember, think outside the block.